It's Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, Kenyan opposition leader suspends anti-government protests. The Kenyan opposition leader, Raila Odinga, announced last weekend that he would suspend his party's anti-government protests and was open to talks with President Ruto. This announcement follows 3 marches which have been punctuated by quite a lot of violence over the past few weeks, instigated in response to the country's high cost of living and alleged fraud in the 2022 election that swept Ruto into power, defeating his rival, Odinga. The Kenyan government has said they see this as an olive branch and a positive development, and reiterated that they would be open to bipartisan reform within the nation's election commission, which is one of Odinga's primary demands. From Yahoo Finance, Australia pauses key interest rate at 3.6% after 10 hikes. The Australian Central Bank has decided to maintain its current 3.6% interest rate following recent data that shows inflation subsiding. This new data indicates that annual inflation in the country probably peaked in December at 8.4% and has since fallen to around 6.8% in February. Goosing inflation rates is the primary way central banks attack inflation, and this move, keeping things as they are rather than raising rates further, suggests those running the bank think inflation will continue to decrease on its own for a while, and that increasing interest rates further would unnecessarily harm the nation's economy. Central banks around the world are struggling with similar decisions right now, with most slowing their increases in recent months, though only a bare few have stopped them entirely at this point. And from Bloomberg, Saudi Arabia is investing $38 billion to become a video game hub. The Saudi Arabian government has committed about $38 billion to a subsidiary of its public investment fund called the Savvy Gaming Group, which will invest in all sorts of video game-related assets, focusing initially on the esports industry. This is one more effort among several others by the Saudi government to invest some of its fossil fuel profits in other sorts of assets, diversifying its portfolio as the world begins its ponderous pivot toward renewable energy sources. It's an interesting move, too, in that it lines up with layoffs across the gaming industry and a severe truncation of the long unprofitable esports facet of the gaming world in particular. But the video game industry overall remains a $184 billion global market, and even though Saudi Arabia has essentially zero footprint in this market right now, $38 billion, with more money to possibly follow in the future, could allow them to scoop up a lot of successful assets and veteran employees and incentivize big players in this space to move or expand their operations to the Middle East, despite the many human rights concerns potentially stemming from such a move. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.